Francis Leal was reminding me that it took 22 years to get to this point. 22 years to realize a vision that so many of you contributed to. The Feinblatts, Francis, Betty Sword, our friend and neighbor. Actually, we should give Betty Sword a round of applause. In those 22 years, this project has gone over a number of iterations. Remember, we wanted to first move a house here. That was the original concept. I don't know where they got that idea, but at the time I happened to have moved a house. I happened to have moved a house onto Raymond Avenue. And so I thought, well, you know, there are no trees around here to get stuck in, and so we can easily, my house got stuck in trees, but so we can easily move a house here. We went through that phase. We went through another phase of maybe doing something on the parking lot. And finally, the Friends of Washington Park, together with neighbors and city staff, came up with the idea to better utilize this portion of the park and at the same time redo the bathrooms. And that's the concept that ultimately took hold and launched this project into reality. When we decided, the city decided to do the bathrooms, it was the opportunity to also do the right thing and create this community space for neighbors, for city staff, and more importantly, for the community in general for decades to come to enjoy. I remember Danny Estrada, who lives across the street, about a block over. How many years have you lived there, Danny? 32 years. So for the bulk of that time, you've served as president of the Rio Grande Neighborhood Association. I didn't say you were elected. So, you know, that's the kind of effort, personal effort, that it takes to make this a reality. And it's the right thing to do for the right reasons, because it's an improvement on a park that's already a historic park. And it's, you know, when you make improvements to a historic park, they right well better be improvements. Because if it's not something that adds to what's already there, then it takes away from the beauty of the historic nature of the park. And so you should all be proud, Jan, all of you, for such a great contribution to this city, to this park, and to our community. I'd like to welcome a few people. Jason Clausen, our police chief. Chief Augustine. And I'd also like to welcome Matt Hawksworth, who has the money to make this happen. Pam Thyrett, who is here with Vice Mayor Wilson's office. And all of the city staff who contributed to this project, including, where's Cynthia? Where'd she go? Oh, Cynthia, you're sitting right here. Like, Cynthia, what happened? You look younger. Cynthia Kurtz, who all of you know, stepped in during the city's most difficult time, and so I'd like us to give Cynthia a round of applause for having done that. And then Tony Olmos, who's our Public Works Director, ensured that this, and Brenda Harvey Williams, who you all know runs our Rec and Parks Department, also contributed greatly to this project. So I could go on and on about all the people who've contributed to this project, but let me just say that what's beautiful about this project is that it's all driven by people in the community. It's all driven individually by you. And so here we are, 22 years later, but here we are, and we're prepared to break ground. Let me introduce my friend and colleague, our city council member. It feels strange to stand in Washington Park and call someone else the city council member, but she is our city council member, Jessica Rivas.
Thank you so much, Mayor. It's so good to be here. Hopefully everyone can hear me. I'm yelling as loud as I can. I'm going to be brief because my daughter is probably going to take off right now. But I am so honored and excited to be here to celebrate with you today. 22 years in the making. When my husband and I moved in years ago, one of the first things we heard about as we got involved with the neighborhood association was that the park was going to get a new bathroom, which we were super excited about because having used this restroom, yeah, we could use a new bathroom. We need, but more than that. And we came in at that crucial point where through the different iterations where the community house became part of it. And that took over and that became the focal point. And we became so excited about that because that is going to be a crucial gathering point for this entire neighborhood for years and years to come, which we can all appreciate even more now, given that we haven't been able to gather over the last several years due to the pandemic. So I want to thank a few folks. First and foremost, I want to thank Mayor Gordo and Vanya De La Cuba for their work for years and years of years. They've been, a driving force to make sure that this project got done and have really advocated and represented our neighborhood to make sure that this park or this community house and restrooms came to fruition. I also want to thank our Public Works Department and our Parks and Recs Department, especially for all the work that they've done recently working with neighbors. And it's really been exciting to see the different iterations come together over the last couple of years through the pandemic, working remotely. The final design is beautiful. We all can't wait to see it in real life. And lastly, of course, I want to thank the neighbors, who many of you, friends and neighbors who are here today, Friends of Washington Park, the Neighborhood Association. Really, that's what we've all been guided by, what the neighbors, what the residents want. And of course, I have to, highlight Betty. Of course, I remember years ago being in your living room, talking with Vanya and maybe another staff member and other neighbors about what we were hoped to see in the final design. And as a council member, I've really come to appreciate even more how involved you've been behind the scenes, emails back and forth with different folks in the department. So thank you so much. We're so lucky and grateful to have folks like you who care about our community and have been working year in and year out to beautify our parks so that we can have something that we can all enjoy for years and years to come. So thank you so much. And with that, I think I'm gonna take my chances, or we're gonna go sit over here now. All right, thank you so much.
Next, I'd like to introduce our interim city manager to say a few words. Again, we can't thank Cynthia enough for having jumped in and contributed greatly in this very difficult time. Cynthia?
Thank you, Mayor. I can't tell you how excited, and I will say a little surprised I am to be here today, given that I got to work on this project 20 years ago. I never thought that I'd be back as interim city manager when finally it comes to a place of groundbreaking. Our park system is wonderful in Pasadena. I think Washington Park is one of our more beautiful parks, but it's always been missing sort of that central heart community building that we needed. It took a long time, but it is going to be great. Who knows? Maybe I'll be back for the ribbon cutting too. We'll see. And I can't wait to see how this comes to fruition finally after all these years. In the few months that I've been here, I've had the privilege of being in a number of parks for dedications, ribbon cuttings, groundbreakings. This city reinvesting in its park system, I think, is so key. It is really what makes Pasadena, Pasadena. And I'm so excited to be just a part of it today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Cynthia. And of course, let me bring up Betty Sword, who all of you know is a quiet but very effective leader in our community. Betty has for many years been a part of Friends of Washington Park with Francis and so many others who have pressed for improvements at the park, and not just in the park, but around the park. You all recall what happened at the corner there. We had a liquor store, this is years ago, and we got rid of that liquor store, replaced it with housing. Not only because it was the right thing to do for the neighborhood, but it was the right thing to do for the park. You recall that people would buy, the big 40 ounces and then walk across the street and drink them in the park. And so this has been an effort that's been a comprehensive effort over decades. And Betty has been at the tip of the sword at each of those battles and each of those improvements. So I'd like to welcome Betty Sword to say a few words.
Thank you, Victor. Can you hear me okay? I know I'm not that quiet, I don't think, really. But, you know, I've often heard Victor say that Pasadena is the center of the universe, in his opinion. And I like to say that Washington Park is the most beautiful park in Pasadena, in the center of the universe. It's distinctive for its topography and its river rock structures, including the iconic bridge and the native plants. And soon it will have the most beautiful craftsman style community house. In 1913, the original 3 acres were purchased for $8,500. A fifth of the funds were raised by residents around the park, which in today's dollars would be about $24,000. And I wonder if any other park and community in Pasadena can make that kind of claim. I'm just curious because I think it speaks to the interest in this neighborhood from the very beginning in having a park here. Washington Park was dedicated 101 years ago in 1921. And later the city hired 2 well-known proponents of native plants, Theodore Payne and Ralph Cornell, to design the park. The park became a very charming spot for community gatherings and family gatherings, club meetings, but eventually, due to benign neglect and economic downturns, it needed some support from the community to bring it back. And in 1993, the Friends of Washington Park was formed with a number of other neighborhood organizations, actually in 1992, and for their work in bringing the park back, received the 1993 award from Neighborhood of the Year award from Neighborhoods USA. Many of the neighbors participated also in the 2002 redesign of the master plan, and also served on the design team for phase 1 of the plan, along with being led by Todd Holmes, our city landscape architect, and who's here today. We can't thank you enough, Todd, for the work you did on that. It was a great, absolutely fantastic person to work with. Over the next 20 years since then, we didn't forget the dream of the community house, but we worked on more immediate park needs, including planting hundreds, if not thousands, of native plants and tending to them. The trees you see along here, valley oaks, were planted by Friends of Washington Park and city staff. And more recently, we've worked on the pollinator garden in the southwest corner of the plant. And if you go down there today, you'll see monarch butterflies flitting around. So I just like to say that we're really celebrating the groundbreaking of a very appropriately named community park in a community that's long supported this park. So I want to thank the many neighbors. I can't even name all the people I'd like to thank, so I just thank you all for the work you've done over the years, the city staff, the commissioners, Vanya, Victor, of course, particularly Victor because he came to bat for us and really supported the park. I want to share this with you. This bag says Washington Park Kids across the top of it. This is made by 2-year-olds who now come to the park with their nannies almost every single day and have really brightened up this part of the park because they have about 10 little 2-year-olds with their nannies every day. So, and I consider them hopefully the future Friends of Washington Park. So, thank you all very much.
So, you know, this is, as we've said a few times, this has been decades in the making, and I'd like to welcome my friend and former Mayor Bill Beaugaard, who contributed greatly to. No way we would have had the funding without the support of the full City Council over a few decades, and that's hard to maintain. But for many of those years, Mayor Beaugaard ensured that we had the support, that this project continued to progress. So I'd like to thank him for his efforts. Also joining us is Claire Beaugaard, who's not here to make sure the project happens. She's here to make sure the project happens correctly. She's here to ensure that the historic fabric of this park is protected. And so, as she's done in so many other places across the city, I'd like to thank Claire for her contributions. Next, I'd like to welcome, well, before I do, let me say, you know, we have a new Public Works Director, but before Tony joined us, Chris Markarian with Public Works ensured that this project continued to progress. Every time she came to City Council, I'd say, how's our park house coming along? And she committed to me that we would get it done, that we would be here today. And so I'd like to thank Chris for all of her efforts over the years. And next, I'd like to welcome Tony Olmos, our Public Works Director, who's going to ensure that the project is done and done correctly.
Thank you, Mayor, and good morning, everybody. So aside from the ribbon cutting, this is actually one of my favorite parts of the project. You know, when you're gonna break ground, and that just means that everything came together, all the hard work that took place leading to this point. And I've only been here for 7 months, so I wasn't part of that 20-year journey that everybody's talking about. 22. But 22 years. But one thing I did learn from everybody that I talked to was how hard of a team, how good of a team we had that worked really hard, put in a lot of time to develop this project over that period of time. I was only here for the final design part of it, but it's just so much work that goes into it. So I just want to give everybody a round of applause for that, because I think it's just incredible. So for my part in Public Works, we do oversee the design, the final design, where you have professionals that put together all the vision that comes from the community, and they put together in drawings that the contractor can use to build a project like this one. So there's a lot of hard work in being able to translate that. Then you have to, you know, talk to Matt about the money, make sure that there's enough in there to fully fund it, and it's just a really big team effort. But just to highlight a little bit on what the scope of work is for the project. It's about a 1,630 square foot building that's going to be, basically the edge of it's going to be right near where this camera is here, going out towards that fence area. Then there's going to be a little courtyard in between it, and then the new restroom is going to be located on the south end there. So it's going to include a kitchenette, multi-purpose space, staff office, and then the family restroom. It's also going to include a 1,000 square foot outdoor patio learning space. 1,000 square feet, that's a really nice size. And the restroom's going to replace this old one and include a new 550 square foot building that includes storage room for park program activities. And all this, the total budget was about $3.1 million, so it's 2.8 just going into the construction. So it's just really, really exciting. And I just want to, my last piece, I just want to highlight who the design team was. I know Brenda's going to highlight some other stakeholders. But from the design team, we had an architect from Onyx Architects. They're local in Pasadena. They're the lead on that. We had KPFF, their structural engineering firm, that also did the project management for the project. As mentioned, David Evans and Associates, led by Todd Holmes. He's a landscape architect, and he used to work in Public Works before. He was our landscape architect before, so this is like an extension of our staff, really. And finally, the contractor, Act One Construction. Right now, they're working on completing the Playhouse Village Park, and they're doing a fantastic job. So we're really lucky to have them on this project, because we know they're going to give us some quality work. So with that, I just want to say it was a great team for a great project, and you know, I just look forward to that ribbon cutting. So thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce Ann Hickebottom, who we all know is a friend, a resident of this community, but also representative to Assembly Member Chris Holden. Oh. Well, let's bring, and Marie up, and then we'll bring Brenda up. So come on up. And actually, Brenda, come on up and receive this with me. And then you can speak. Yeah.
I love presents.
Thank you, Victor. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'm pleased to be here on behalf of Assemblymember Chris Holden. 22 years ago, he was on the council, not his district, but a long-term support of the project. He's very happy to see this move forward. And to recognize that, we have a certificate for the city, recognizing they're moving forward with their project. And we'll present it to you. City of Pasadena, Washington Park renovation groundbreaking. Congratulations. And we also have one for the Friends of Washington Park, and maybe Ms. Ford will step forward and accept that one. As has been pointed out, the importance of communities in partnership with their city, right? The city belongs to the people, and moving forward is very important to have community support and the active involvement of community members. So I'm very happy to be part of this today. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And next we'll hear from Brenda Harvey Williams.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming out. I always like to start these things off by saying thank you for coming to our party. As the Parks and Recreation and Community Services Department, we're the ones who get the opportunity to feel like we own this. And by owning it, I mean we are the ones who maintain it. We are the ones who do the programming. And we are always so pleased to have such a wonderful partner for this project in the Friends of Washington Park. The Friends of Washington Park are amazing. There are eyes and ears in this park, since we're not here 24 hours a day, but I somehow think that they are. And when things are going well, they let us know, and we thank you for that. And when things aren't going well, they let us know, and I thank you for that. Because if we don't know about it, we can't help fix it. But what's so exciting to me today is that, just to digress for a moment, today, June 20th, is a special day in our department because it's the first day of summer camp here in this park. And at this park, the camp is known as a drop-in park. And because of the foresight of the mayor and city council, do you want to know how much these children's parents are paying for them to attend camp here for 5 weeks? That's right. And the Friends of Washington Park knew that. It's zero. So this is one of our 2 free camps, which allows all the children of Pasadena to be able to participate in summer camp. And one of the things we've had to do the last several years during camp was rent some porta potties, because this one, not so good. So we are thrilled and excited that next summer we're going to have this new community house and new restrooms for our children to utilize during summer camp. But not just for them, of course. This community house and the restrooms and the learning space will be for everyone. And we love that this park has such a strong advocacy in the Friends of Washington Park. But I did want to thank some people who also helped us get to this point. Our Public Works Department, as you know, there are contractors, they do the design, but it took a lot of input from the neighbors and also from those of us who program the park. So I would like to thank our staff from Parks, Recreation, and Community Services who had some input in helping in the design of the park. And one of the main people is the guy who works here. And he's busy right now working at the camp, but his name is Johnny Mack. And if you know anything about the park, you know Johnny. So Johnny loves this park, and he attended numerous community meetings along with many of you in helping determine what the design is. But in addition to Johnny, I do want to thank our staff who are responsible for maintaining this park. And they love to be able to do extra special things for this park. One, because it makes Betty happy. and they love that positive reinforcement. But one of the things they recently did was remove some extra grass. You know, we're in a water shortage, so they did do a new project on the, I'm bad with directions, northwest corner of the park. But I'd like to recognize our parks administrator, Mel Alonzo, our park superintendent, Talib Khalif. I'd like to recognize our supervisor who's over the parks in this area, Carl Jones. And as I mentioned, we do programming, all of our recreation programming. I'd like to recognize Kenny James, our recreation administrator. And then Leonardo Chavez, who does our, he's responsible for for our facilities in our parks. So this community house will be something that he will be closely monitoring. But I can tell you, yes, I can tell you that our staff loves this park as much as the neighbors love this park, and we are thrilled and excited that we are going to have this new facility for years to come. It took about 100 years to get to this point, as Betty pointed out, the history of when this park started. It took 100 years to get to this point, and as your recreation programming and parks people, we just want to say we're looking forward to the next 100 years in this park because we know they'll be even better than the first 100 years. Thank you.
So thank you, everyone. This will conclude our program, but I just want to say, you know, whether you're a city staff person in Public Works and Rec and Parks, or a member of the police department, or a resident who has pressed for this project to move forward and contributed in the design discussions to ensuring that it was the correct design, that it was a fitting and design for a historic park, or whether you are someone who just happened to come across on a Monday morning at Washington Park to see what was going on. I think all of you have contributed greatly. And I think we all deserve a round of applause for this. And so, again, congratulations to all of you who've had a hand in this. And I look forward to seeing all of you before next summer when we break the ribbon and enjoy the new community house at Robinson Park. Thank you. Oh, what did I say? Oh, Washington Park, sorry. That was last week, huh?